Hiya folks, it's Kikoskia here and welcome back to another audio-only video. This video contains no gameplay or music whatsoever, allowing you to focus on whatever it is you're up to. As for me, I'm going to be here, recording this video about stuff. But what stuff are you going to talk about, Kiko? I'm glad you asked, because this one is going to be a bit of a mishmash, but it all has one running theme, and that is random topics concerning my Let's Plays from all over the place. Some of them from the present, some from the far past, and some things that you may not know. But let's start with something that I'm sure many people know by now, because I have talked about it quite a few times, but there are some people who may not know it. Let's talk about how I started LPing my very first Let's Play, the original Lands of Lore playthrough. Before I did Let's Plays, I watched a lot of other people's Let's Plays, and in particular I watched a lot of Let's Plays from RPGenie, who, among other things, played through a lot of the Might and Magic games. I still really enjoy watching those LPs because he was very informative and he had a lot of fun while playing those games. And that got me to thinking about games that I played when I was younger that I really enjoyed, and so I looked up Lands of Lore on YouTube, and the only playthroughs of Lands of Lore that were there were in German, and I thought to myself, nobody's played through this game in English yet? I need to show people how awesome this game is. I can't believe people don't know about this game. And so I very hastily got a hold of a headset with a microphone so I could record. Up until then, I used speakers, and I also figured out how to get a recording software working on my computer. The infamous LP with unregistered Hypercam 2. It was the only LP of mine, I believe, with unregistered Hypercam 2. And with that, I managed to get videos recorded. I say managed because even with figuring out how to get the recording software going, I still didn't know how it actually worked and why Stereo Mix worked the way it did. And random aside, Stereo Mix was the reason why, when I recorded multiplayer games for such a long time, that the games didn't have their audio, because it wasn't possible with my setup then to have the audio from me and the people playing with me and the game simultaneously. One of the little quirks of that computer. That Windows XP machine that was never designed to record Let's Plays and was terribly grounded, which explained the incessant whining sound in all of those videos, but it did a fantastic job, and I was very pleased with the first videos that I created. The me back then was a very different person, a person who was very nervous about putting content that I created up on the internet for all to see. But I did it. That's how it all began. From that first Let's Play came many other LPs. But also from that Let's Play came my first instance of burnout, because I took on way too much, way too fast. Eventually, I was doing 3 games at once. I was doing Lands of Lore 2, Albion, and Stonekeep simultaneously, and I was putting up 2 videos per day every single day. Which is curious because now I look at my schedule, where I put up one 20-minute video every day for 3 games, and I realise that the amount of content that burnt me out then is the exact same amount of content that I'm doing right now that I can manage just fine with, on top of doing streams and also working on the Threnody of Dusseldom. I think part of it is because I really wasn't used to Let's Playing, and another part of it was that I was working full-time at the time as well, so I was juggling a full-time job and making all this content. Admittedly, back then, making the content didn't take as long because I usually did every single video in one take. It was just start, it went as it went, end. Start, it went as it went, end. Nowadays, videos take a lot longer to do because I get caught on the start of videos, or something will happen that throws my concentration, and thus I have to start again. The rare instances where I manage to get a video recorded first time are ones that I cherish, because they're fantastic. But that's besides the point. I was doing 3 playthroughs at the same time, and eventually I just got overwhelmed, and I think for about a month I just stopped doing videos completely, and I didn't tell anyone that I had stopped due to burnout. I didn't quite recognize that it was burnout at the time. I'm very lucky now that I think about it that people stuck around and waited for me to carry on, because if they hadn't, my channel would not be at the point it was at. It probably would have fizzled out, and that would have been the end of it. But eventually, I recovered from the burnout and decided to return, this time with more focus. It might have actually been the fact that I was doing different games as opposed to the amount of videos, because I decided then that I would just focus on one game, complete that, another game, complete that, and then the final game, and then I went on doing just one game at a time. For the longest time, it was just doing one game at a time. But then I started to sprinkle other things in, like Let's Quickly Plays, which were games that I recorded in one sitting. I would settle down, start recording, and wouldn't stop recording until I was done. Again, something that was made possible by the fact that I would just start recording, and whatever happened, I went with it. And it allowed me to get, say, 6 videos out in an hour. Another thing that also helped was the fact that the videos were only 10 minutes long. And while some people will say, but even when the videos are 20 minutes long, 2 of the 10-minute videos are still exactly the same as the 20-minute video. That's true, but the longer the video goes on, the more likely something will happen that will throw off the longer video. Shorter videos, less opportunity for that to happen, and once you've finished a video, that's it, it's finished. Another thing, admittedly, that also made videos a faster thing to do was the fact that I did practically no editing back then. I checked that there was sound, I checked that there was the actual video, and then I compressed it immediately. Because does editing take up even more time these days than the actual recording process. But again, I am sidetracking. I started doing the Let's Play Quicklies, and I also did the Let's Play Togethers. Don't do those so much anymore now. That's kind of a mixture of a number of things. Let's Quickly Plays is just because my schedule is now so full. The mornings of Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday are all spent recording in one form or another. Monday to Wednesday is the 2 Let's Plays and the replay, and Friday is devoted to this. Then you have the evenings of Wednesday and Friday, which are the streams, and then you have the afternoon of most of the weekdays, which is now devoted to writing for the Threndy of Dusseldom, as well as other things that I need to do, like getting food and the other things essential for survival. That stops the Let's Quickly Plays for the most part. The Let's Play Togethers is mainly because it's very difficult now to organise so many people to come together to do a recording, on top of all the things I've just said that prevent the Let's Quickly Plays from being a thing these days. But that doesn't mean that I haven't tried to get something like that set up, which brings me to LPs that never were. LPs that I either never finished or that you never saw. Now, the LPs that never were, the first one is one that I'm pretty sure you all know about, and that's Daikatana. I did try to play through the PC version of Daikatana. It's one of the few games that I would never return to, because even though I've left it unfinished, because in hindsight, I really didn't enjoy playing that game, and I certainly wouldn't enjoy playing that game now. It was not fun, and when a game's not fun for me to play through, I'm not going to play it. Also, it crashed at a particular point when I was originally recording it, and nothing I could do would let me progress. I even tried to skip to the next level by using cheats, but that still wouldn't work. And I took it as a sign that, hey, maybe I shouldn't be playing this game. And so I stopped playing it, and I moved on. Then there was Trine 1. If you remember, me and Alien Cabalion did a playthrough of Trine 2. A playthrough that I really enjoy, and we tried to play Trine 1. But things went really awry. We had problems with audio from Alien Cabalion side, and I had video problems as well. That was more a sign that things were going wrong with my graphics card at the time, but I didn't realise that. And so, that LP, which we did start with the full intention of finishing, never ended up being completed, and other things have popped up to prevent us from returning to it. Perhaps at some point we will return to Trine 1, but again, there are just so many things now in my schedule that prevent me from doing so. And then, there's Monkey Island 2. But Kiko, I hear you say, there is no playthrough of Monkey Island 2 on your channel. You're absolutely right. There isn't. I had an idea quite a number of years ago, I don't remember how many years ago, that when I had a spare half hour or so, I would record 1 or 2 videos of a Let's Play that I could effectively leave in reserve, so that if something happened and I didn't have time to record a full week's worth of videos, or if I finished an LP and I didn't have an idea for a replacement, I would have a backup Let's Play that I could just start uploading, that would give me some breathing room, and I decided that that would be Monkey Island 2. Now, I played the newer version, the enhanced edition as it were, and one thing that was different for that as opposed to the first one was that you had to have the voices. In the first game, you could have it so that there wasn't the voice acting, and I loved going through that game and giving all the characters voices. That was really enjoyable to me. The second game, you didn't really have much of a choice in that regard. There was no option for me to not have the voice acting, regardless of whether I played in the new spiffier graphics mode or the original mode. And I don't know why, but that threw me off, because I'd only ever played Monkey Island 2 before then, in its original version, where there wasn't the voice acting, and so that was in my head as how Monkey Island 2 was. And then when I got to this game, and there was all the voice acting, I was all prepared to do all the voices again, but I didn't need to, and that was a little disappointing for me, because I wanted to do that again. I really enjoy doing that. And as I played through the game, and I did quite a few videos, I think I may have done like 12 to 15, maybe even nearly 20 videos, something about the game, at least when I was playing it then, didn't click with me like it did the first one. I really enjoy Monkey Island 2, don't get me wrong, it's a really fun game, but when I was playing through it then, it just didn't go as I wanted it to, and so I ended up not doing anything with it after a certain point. I stopped recording more videos, and I didn't upload any of it. In fact, I'm not sure if I still have the videos for Monkey Island 2, but if I do, they're going to stay where they are. I'd rather do another attempt at playing Monkey Island 2 in the future, and do a better job of it. Speaking about trying something again, there have been instances where I've had to re-record entire videos. Sometimes I've not noticed something when I've been recording, and then I upload it and people go, "This is terrible, you need to solve this." One of the major instances was a Anvil of Dawn video that had huge amounts of desync. It was a very early Anvil of Dawn video, I think it was actually in the first dungeon, but it had huge problems for some reason, and I've no idea why. But I was told about this when it was uploaded, and very quickly I realised I'm going to have to re-record this entire thing, which made me very glad that I had the saves at the end of each video. Always a good idea to save. Save early, save often, you never know what will happen. Something could go wrong, and you will be glad you have that save. Even if you're doing a hardcore run where you can't load up if things go wrong, have a backup save anyway, in case something technical goes wrong. Games are not infallible. Games will crash, saves will corrupt, and if you only have one save, you'll lose your entire progress. Just always have that backup plan just in case. I ended up re-recording that entire Anvil of Dawn video, and I said as much that it was a re-recording. And once I got that video up, I put the original video on private. I didn't delete the video, but I left it there inaccessible because I was happier with the newer one, even though I said in the newer one that this was a re-record, because I was retracing steps that I'd already taken. Actually, it took me less time in the game to do so. Makes sense, already done it. The other instance of that was Loom. Now, Loom was a playthrough that I really enjoyed, and it was one of those rare ones that I did in one sitting. Problem being, I got the sound balance really badly wrong in that game. Some people said the sound balance was great, but other people said the sound balance was awful. And when I listened back to it, I realised what they meant, because the game doesn't have good sound balance. There was no way for me to deal with that sound balance. When people pretty much only talked about that, I went into panic mode. I thought, I can't put up the rest of this playthrough over the next week and a bit. People will be really disappointed, and I don't want that. And so I came up with a plan, and it was a really rushed plan. I decided to upload the entirety of Loom the next time Loom's slot came up, and I rushed to record another game to fill in that gap that the absent Loom videos would leave, and that game turned out to be Simon the Sorcerer. Yeah, Simon the Sorcerer was the emergency oh dear let's play, and did that turn out to be a good decision, because I really enjoyed playing Simon the Sorcerer, but know that was not something that was planned at all. That was oh dear, need something quick, what's around? Oh, Simon the Sorcerer, heard that's good, let's play it, because I'd never played that game before. Another game that I royally messed up, and I'm really sad about this, Twin Sector. Twin Sector was a game I picked up really cheaply, and the premise of it intrigued me enough that I wanted to give it a go. What I messed up with that game is that there is a quick save function, and I did not realise that there was a quick save function. In the beginning / middle part of the game, there were a few puzzles that I really got stumped on. And the problem was, because I wasn't using the quick save function, I had to replay huge parts of the puzzle every time I failed, and understandably this really annoyed people, but because I record in batches of videos, I couldn't act on people saying that there was a quick save function until afterwards, and I felt awful about it, because I was getting really annoyed at the game because of the fact that I had to keep retrying from this point when I didn't. It was me not reading the instructions correctly. Me not reading the instructions? That never happens, he says, looking at Rock of Ages and the fact that you could rotate things, and yet I didn't realise because I didn't read it. Yeah, that happens sometimes. I'm human. Being human means that you make mistakes, and that was a mistake, and one that I still to this day feel really guilty about. If there's one game that I really want to replay at some point, it's Twin Sector, and that's because I really want to give Twin Sector that second chance. It deserves a second chance. I may just end up doing that after Lords of Magic. That's a thought. Another thing I want to talk about is how it took me a lot longer than you'd think to decide to do the replays, because I ummed and ahed about that for such a long time. I kept thinking, I really love these videos, but the audio and video quality are of the time, and even for the time there were problems, like that incessant whining noise from my computer not being properly grounded, and all sorts of other things. The compression of my audio made me sound like I was talking through a tin and a sock. As great as those videos are, nowadays, they're difficult to watch because of that, and I thought, I want to do these games again, but I didn't want to delete the originals. I have never deleted the original playthrough once I've done a replay. I keep everything there because, after all, it's all a journey. I don't want to hide any part of my Let's Playing journey. The beginning, bumbling parts, all the bits that I messed up, all of my mistakes, they've all made me what I am today. But I really wondered if people wanted to watch me go through a game that I'd already played. And eventually, it was a long time before I decided, hey, you know what, I actually will give this a go, and I'll do it with the first game I ever played. And I'm so glad I decided to take that risk, because I love the replay slot. Now, the replay slot is not something that's going to exist forever, of course, because there are only so many games I want to replay. And once that list has been exhausted, I don't know what I'm going to do with that part of my schedule. I may revert it back to a normal Let's Play slot, where I just put 3 videos of one game up at once. But that is still a while in the future, because I still have things like Lands of War 2 and 3, I have things like Twin Sector, and other games that I have not played in so long that I want to give another chance. There are 2 more things I want to talk about. First, I want to talk about games that have really surprised me, 2 in particular. One of these is going to lead into the final topic, but the first of these is Phantasy Star 4. I've discovered so many games that I really love through Let's Playing. Rock of Ages, which I'm doing right now, is one such game. A fantastic experience that I'm so sad that I didn't play earlier. And that's the criteria for games that have really surprised me in how much I love them. And you can't talk about those on my channel without me talking about Phantasy Star 4, because Phantasy Star 4, my word, I should have played that so much earlier, at least a decade earlier, because it's one of my favourite games. It was a game that I decided, you know what, I'm going to give this a chance. It's meant to be long, it's meant to be very involved, and I should look at the final entry of this, at the time, flagship RPG series from Sega, and it is a brilliant experience that surprised me in so many ways with how it was written and how it plays, and the characters in it are now so near and dear to my heart, and it's just wonderful. It's a wonderful game, and I'm so sad that it was only recently that I discovered how great it is. And then there's Edna and Harvey the Breakout, a game that I took a chance on when I found it in a computer game store while on holiday. It was a couple of pounds, and I was picking between that and a different game, but ultimately I selected Edna and Harvey because the cartoonish graphic style was very interesting, and the premise on the back was very interesting. And I'm so glad I took a risk on that game, because that game is also one of my favourites. It's so full of extremely well-written humour and dialogue. So much dialogue in that game. I know I was pretty exhaustive with going around and finding dialogue, but I can assure you there will be loads of dialogue that I never encountered. Loads of funny little things that I didn't see. You could play that game and find them and not find things that I found, and it's just so lovingly created, and it's just so fun. It's one of the things that I really love about point-and-click adventure games, all the little things that you can find by interacting with your environment. And it also does this without having the difficulty that older point-and-click adventure games have. No ability to perish, no puzzles that were too difficult to figure out, because the game very blatantly spelt out what you needed to do. Some people would say that Edna and Harvey had moon logic, but the things you needed to do were always clear. You were even told how you achieve these things, provided you pay attention to your surroundings, what items you have, and to the conversations you have with the various people in the game. And I really like the characters. I just really love the game. And then there's another game that I took a chance on. A game which not a lot of you may have watched, and that is my playthrough of Journey to the Center of the Earth. I was again on holiday, but this was before the holiday had actually started. I was on a break from driving and got a little bit of food, and one of the things in this small retail park was a electronics store. Now, these places have all of the hardware, things that you need for computers, screens, cables, mice, keyboards, other random electrical doodads, but they also typically have a small selection of games, and I mean very small, usually on one spinny display, or, in this case, in a metal cage bin. And I scoured that bin looking for things, and one of the things I found was Journey to the Center of the Earth, and it looked absurd. I'd never heard of this game, I'd never heard of the company that made the game, and looking at the back of it, it looked kind of like a point-and-click adventure game, but not any kind I'd seen before. And I looked at the price, it wasn't especially cheap for what it was, and I thought to myself, if I'm buying this game, I have to Let's Play it. This is the only justification I have for buying this. It is so unusual that I have to show it off, and I promised myself that, and so I did Let's Play it, and what a journey that is! The title is apt, it is indeed a journey. I'm not going to spoil what kind of journey it is, but let's just say it is an experience you have to look at if you like strange point-and-click adventure games, because it truly is an odd one. And with that, that is pretty much the end of the video. I did warn you it would be a bit of a bitty one. It jumped from topic to topic, but ultimately I've spoken in some detail, more detail than others in some instances, about various topics concerning my Let's Playing. And I hope you've enjoyed this rambly journey through my head, because when you look in there, it's usually rambliness. And so, when we come back, folks, who's to say what is to come, apart from the fact that it will be there? Or will it? Who knows? The future is a peculiar thing. It will happen, and we know when it will happen, but we don't know what will happen when we get there. And yet we sort of do, because some things will always remain constant, and yet other things won't. And that is one of the peculiar joys of life, that every day is different in its own way. You just need to find out how. And so, when we come back, another audio video next time, and other videos in the meantime. And so, I'll catch you next time, folks, and I'll see you then. Later.